God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
And click. All right, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to August 25th, 26th. I think it's 26th. What is it? I think it's the 26th. So, yes, it's episode 1626. Welcome to the Daily Awakening, a conversation that allows you to challenge some of the old thoughts and the old beliefs and the old desires so that you can have more of what you want and less of what you don't. I want to introduce you to something new. Today, the conversation is to introduce you to something new. CidoPsychoGenesis. CidoPsychoGenesis. It's the idea of the death of the old so that you can have the birth of the new thought, right? You'll not find that word anywhere. It's kind of something I created and something I'm going to run with. So CidoPsychoGenesis is this CPG, is where we all want to be. This is what all training is designed to do, or hopefully that it does, is the death of the old, the putting away with the old story, allowing you to have more of what you want and less of what you don't. And it all starts inside of the brain, right? Neural, it starts with the psychosis, the psyche, all of this conversation. And then the genesis is the beginning, it's the start, right? In the beginning, there was the word. What is the word that begins your life today? What is the word that begins your life right now? What is the idea, the concept, the belief, the trait, the value? What is it that you're going to stand strong on, right? What's that phrase that say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything? Well, that's the conversation I want to have with you today, is this idea of this CidoPsychoGenesis, the death of an old part of you so that you can have full control over your thoughts so that you can create the new Genesis. Let me ask you this. How many of you, you can drop a one in the chat if you want to. Listen carefully before you drop a one. You may not want to. How many of you would like to pass along all of the fears and the doubts that you have onto your grandbabies? Drop a two if you think that would be, I don't want to say inhumane, but drop a two in the chat if you think that you would want to pass on better. You would want to connect at a better level, a higher level, a deeper level, give them more faith, right? We always say we want more for our kids than we want for ourselves. We want more for our kids than we want for ourselves. When is it time to have more for you? See, if you want more for your kids, you got to have more for you. It just works that way. That's the genesis of any new idea. It's got to start from somewhere. It's got to start from something, and it starts inside of the mind. It starts inside of the brain. It starts inside of this psyche and this old story that's been wired, right? They say the average brain is still getting formed and not completely wired in till 25 for boys, 26 for women, something like that. In the 20s, late 20s, by 7, most of your fundamental beliefs and traits about the world have been locked in, and you spend the next decade looking for ways to confirm it. How many times have you known the little cliques in school, right? I wasn't part of those cliques. I was always the outsider. And the reason I was the outsider is because I didn't have any friends to create my own clique, right? And I wasn't truly accepted. I was respected, so I was okay with that. That's why a lot of my youth is not a painful story, because I had respect, and I had respect because of my size and because of my strength. Not that I ever had to use it, which is why I love my warrior and my 4 archetypes. The warrior I have is 100 feet tall and doesn't really need to do anything, just needs to show up, take one step. How many of you have ever taken one step forward in your faith, one step forward in your absolute desire? How many of you have given the look to somebody in your family, and they went, all right, you don't have to yell. So this idea of pseudo side, right? Suicide, homicide, all of these things, genocide. Pseudo is side, the death of. The death of the psycho, right? The psycho, the mind, the psycho, the way that we think, the genesis of the new. And so that's this concept, that's this conversation that I want to have with you. What needs to pass away today? What do you need to let go? Maybe what do you need to take off the stage? When I explain this to people, I say, I want you to imagine a stage that's 5-6 feet tall, and there's one microphone on it, and it's a huge auditorium. It's a huge auditorium. And the reason it's 5 or 6 feet tall is because there's a lot of people on the ground floor, and they need to have you up high enough so that they can see from the ground floor. So you're 5 or 6 feet in the air, and there's a spotlight beaming down, and there's one microphone, the silver microphone with the silver handle. This one's black, so you could use this one if you wanted, but there's one microphone that's standing up there, and it's got that one mic, and it's on a mic stand that you can raise and lower. Who's on stage right now? Right now, when I asked you that, who's on stage? Were you on stage? Were you looking out at the audience, or did you see yourself looking up at the mic? Kind of interesting, right? So drop a 1 for the stage and 2 for the audience. Where were you as I was describing that? Were you on stage, or 2, you were in the audience? Okay, so if you're on stage, what are you saying? What are you teaching? What are you living? What are you learning? What are you promoting people to? What are you saying for people for that, so that they can absolutely understand you? See, this is the idea, this is the concept, this is the understanding, that when you truly start to begin to look at where are you, who are you doing, what are you saying, all of a sudden you realize beyond a shadow of a doubt that this idea of who you are changes. See, the Cido is the person that believes they're on stage, is the person who thinks they're on stage, is the person who's not controlling your day, controlling your life. How many of you have had how many of you have had a less than perfect morning? It's because you weren't on stage. Follow me on this. If you know that you have had a less than perfect 100% morning, it's because another identity other than you was on stage. You tell everybody, you say you want to have a great day. You say you want to be the one in charge. You say you're going to be at your ideal weight. You're going to do the appropriate hydration. You're going to do the appropriate exercise. You're going to make the calls. You're going to do the follow-ups. You're going to make the presentations. This is the part that sucks, because we realize that all of a sudden we're not in control. We're habitualized. If you've ever heard of the vacation spot called hedonism, right? Hedon means self, and hedonism is you're responsible for the hedonics of self-care. Hedonics is the idea of self-care. So this idea of this hedonistic of hedonism, this hedonistic belief that you have in your brain of how well you should be taken care of. What's your ideal? What's your idea of how well you should be taken care of? How many of you, listen, how many of you believe somebody should make breakfast for you? How many of you believe that you should be waking up with French doors open out onto the beach? How many of you are saying right now, oh my God, that would be so amazing? How many of you believe that you should have a beachside hut? It's a little better than a hut, but a beachside hut in Turks and Caicos. How many of you believe that you should have the ability to sleep on the plane, on a flat bed on the plane when you travel across the ocean? See, this is the CidoPsychoGenesis. If you start having these thoughts, if you start believing these words, if you start falling in love with telling the new story, getting on stage and looking out at the audience, and you know who's in the audience, you want to know who's in the audience? The first 10 rows, typically, of somebody who's not been through this kind of a training, the first 10 rows are all of your fears and doubts. And those are the ones that you're looking to get a response for, because the lights are so bright, you can only see a couple rows out. Any of you have ever been on stage? Drop a B in the chat if you've ever been on stage and the lights are so bright that you can't see out farther than just a few rows. And if that's the case, then you're trying to get, where are you getting your feedback? I know, Dubby. I know, Dublin, right? It's the doubters that are sitting in the front row, and you're looking for them. And when they don't respond, you do something that gets them to respond. And how do you get them to respond is when you self-doubt. And self-doubt goes, that's my girl. That's my boy. Good morning, W. You saying hello to everybody? Say hi to everybody. You've been out running around, huh? Chasing everything, making sure the chickens are good. So when you have this idea and this concept and this belief that you are going to be the one who's going to create this new CidoPsychoGenesis, all of a sudden there's a new capability and a new capacity that you have. How does the old story die? It dies from not being fed. It's a painful death unless you sit it in a place that it no longer has control. You tell it to move. Where are the and drop it in the chat. Where are the biggest raving fans of most concerts? Where are the people who are the biggest raving fans who truly show their dedication and their determination? They're not always the ones in the front row. Yeah, the front row, yes, but they bought it. They could afford it. Isn't it the ones who had to scrape money together and said, oh my God, it was the best concert ever, and I was in the nosebleed section in row 73 ZZDD behind the pillar, and they still showed up and loved the event? What if all of those people who you've had influence on, those people you've had who believe that you're influenceable, that believe that you have the ability to influence them, what if you just told them right now, if you were standing on stage and you said, listen, I need the first 10 rows of the doubters, the people who paid to be here. Do you realize, listen carefully, this is going to hurt some of you. Do you realize that a lot of the mentors that you have, you've paid to be there? Wait, what are you talking about? It's called auto ship. It's called auto ship. Subscribe and save. Because you're in their organization, because you pay to be in that community, you're following the one person who's your upline. Doesn't make them mentor. How many of you are following what your mom said and they're no longer even in your income model? They're not even in a part of this, but they change, right? Mental profits, your thoughts create your income. Your mom is still around. Maybe she's passed, gone on to heaven years ago, and she still has influence over you. That's somebody who's winds up being a mentor if they have influence over you, even when they're not in the room. And you paid for this mentorship. It's going to require you to adapt and adopt some new words to describe the people who are in your life. And the Cido, the side, take them aside, take them to death, take them to relief, take them to letting it go, plays on your psyche. You're going to have this play. You're going to have this rewrite. Imagine you're the author of this play called Your Life. And you go, rewrite. We got to do a new rewrite. This story isn't working. We got to kill off the main character. And the main character is you, the one that has all of these beliefs that are limiting beliefs, that are doubting beliefs, that are beliefs that are not serving, these beliefs that are driven by somebody outside of the play. Now, all of a sudden, what happens? This new character comes in with this new Genesis. We have this Genesis in the beginning. What if today was in the beginning? How would you build your life? How would you build your story? What would you truly believe? What would you truly want to do? What would be your nutritional diet on a daily basis? See, Bob Proctor wrote a book, You Were Born Rich. If today is the Genesis, if today is the beginning, if today is the start, are you not born rich on this day? What are you lacking on this day? It's simply the vibratory state of what it is that you want to be in alignment with. That's the only thing you're lacking. Money is a vibration. Love is a vibration. Faith is a vibration. Courage is a vibration. All of this is vibratory in state. How should we feel about how we are making the shift? Well, the dopamine molecule, right? We just did a 22-minute meditation on unlocking the dopamine molecule and allowing it to flow and invigorate and infuse, right? How many of you have ever dropped mint leaves or something in the little ball inside of water and it infused itself into the water, right? Cucumbers and strawberries and lemons. And you now all of a sudden, the lemon is still the lemon. It looks like it's completely the lemon, but it has infused its flavor, its taste, its desire into the water, and you drink it and you consume this part of the lemon that gave itself up for you. What part of your life needs to give itself up for you? What part of joy needs to give itself up, needs to infuse into your life? That's the Genesis. This is the psyche, the psycho. What are you going to allow the thinking, the thought of Genesis, this Genesis that's happening of joy to flow into your life? What is the Genesis of faith in yourself? What is the genesis of belief in yourself? How limiting is the genesis moment of all things that happen in your life? It is unlimited. The only thing that begins to limit the capacity and the capability of genesis in your life is the psycho, is the psyche, is the part of your brain, this psychographic, this idea, this thought, this belief. But if you are in the genesis moment of your life, there is no old story. It has sided, it is CiDo'd, it has been let go, it has been let to die. What is the beginning of this moment right now? The genesis of this moment. Kind of overwhelming. Overwhelming puts us in a state of needing to go back to underwhelm. I'm going to encourage you in this genesis moment to begin to expand. How many of you have felt your chest, your posture straighten, your chest straighten up, your lungs expand, your blood flowing a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, your heartbeat is increased? You're not running a marathon right now. You're not running a marathon right now. This is something called neuroencoding. We're having thoughts to allow your body to operate at its highest and best level. We're asking you exactly with the tune of, that is Dublin, who is giving you this orchestra moment of Genesis. The angels are bringing their trumpets. This making sense? This is what I want to invite you to, into this community, into the idea of beginning to ask Genesis moment questions. We don't need to be asking questions of chapter 42 in your life that's not working. How do I make chapter 42 work? It's not going to work. It's done. That's the chapter. That's the lesson. That was the part of chapter 42 that needed to be written. Chapter 87, chapter 3. Decide where you're at in this book. Just decide to write the ending. Just write the words, write in the mind. Just do it in the air. Write the end. And close that book. And let's start the new book called the CidoPsychoGenesis book. This moment where you have allowed the old story and you've laid it to rest, you've thrown roses on its coffin, and you are now going to use all. It doesn't mean that it's gone. It doesn't mean that we are forgetting it. It doesn't mean we're not going to dishonor it by forgetting it. It's just no longer going to be the one in charge. In this moment, in this CidoPsychoGenesis moment, the ability to now change the way you look at things, it's going to be the most difficult. Remember when you were a baby trying to walk and learn language, you are going to fumble, you are going to fall, you are going to misspeak, you are going to misthink, you are going to have all of these things, and you're going to challenge. You need to re-challenge the new beginning, this new state, and you're going to need to learn to walk again. Because let me ask you a question. Wouldn't this be true? Wouldn't this really be true? Something that would happen if you began to have your $50,000, $70,000, $10,000, $6,000, $2,000 a week increase in income? Wouldn't you feel a little bit better? Wouldn't your body, this genesis part of your body, the cycle part of who you are, wouldn't it change? Would your stress get less if you had more money? Now, money that says that it is yours, you've earned it. It comes to you freely and effortlessly from multiple streams of income. How many of you would be okay with more thank yous in your life? More people saying thank yous, not you saying thank you. You could say more thank yous. That wouldn't be a bad thing. But how many of you would love to have more thank yous flow into your life? How many of you would love people to just come up and hug you and to begin to come up and hug you? Would your body act different? Would you stand different? Would you feel different? Would you speak different? Would you speak less? Imagine if you had to speak less in the CidoPsychoGenesis moment. Imagine if you had to say less because you were listening to people who for once could say thank you. They finally had somebody they could say thank you to. They finally had somebody who understood their path, who understood their passion, who understood their misery, yet wasn't in the hole with them. I welcome you to CPG. I welcome you to this idea, this concept, this philosophy. And here's the good part. Here's the great part. Here's the wonderful part. Even the success of today needs to die by tomorrow. See, the challenge is we lack so much recognition in our own life that we carry on the best of yesterday as if it's the pinnacle. There's a good old Irish saying, may the best of your yesterdays be the worst of your tomorrows. Do you realize the the legacy mindset of those simple words stated. How many of you want the worst of your day? Think about that for just a moment. How many of you want your days to be the worst? Well, that's the best of yesterday. That's the best most people can live. If you truly embrace this philosophy of let the best of your yesterdays be the worst of your tomorrows, you will never see that day again. Nothing fails like success. That phrase says that the best of your yesterday is just the foundation with which you put your feet upon, not where you set your eyes. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Welcome to CidoPsychoGenesis. The idea of the death of the old self, becoming fully aware of your unlimited potential so that you can create the genesis with each and every breath. Sadhguru says, in this moment, choose joy or choose misery. Choose genesis or choose death. And death is when you don't use the moment that's been given to you. We all know that we only have seconds on this planet. It would be exhausting to use every second to stay at your highest and best self. That's a story you tell yourself. It's really not that hard. It is joyful. So there you go. I'm your head brain training, neuro-encoded, brain-trained, mental toughness, self-talk training guy. Good morning, Beamish. Are you going to say hello now? You think I'm ending the call? We're just going to go to the VIP now. That's right. We're going to go to the VIP. I'll see y'all where? I'll see you at the next event. Till then, thanks, everybody. And welcome to CPG. Till then, bye for now. And YouTube, I love you.